revenge with Lyra.
Why the hell isn't your card working? I wanted to buy Mom a mink coat, but the payment didn't go through. My unemployed brother shouted, his hand slapping across my cheek before I even understood what was happening. You embarrass me in the store? That was the last straw. My name is Rachel Pierce, I'm 31. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. The department store around us went silent. A woman near the perfume counter gasped, while the cashier froze mid-swipe. I tasted blood in my mouth but refused to touch my face. You used my card? I asked, voice low, controlled. Mom needed a gift, he hissed. You've got money. You can't be that stingy. I canceled that card 2 weeks ago, I said. Guess you didn't get the memo. He scoffed. You're pathetic, Rachel. You think a promotion makes you better than family? I looked at him. Creased jeans, crumpled hoodie, arrogance that had never earned its keep. No, I said softly. I think responsibility does. Mom appeared from behind the rack of coats, her tone dripping with practiced exhaustion. Oh, for heaven's sake, stop making a scene. Your brother was only trying to do something nice. For himself, I muttered. Rachel, she warned, you've always had a temper. That line, the one they'd used my whole life, snapped something deep inside me. I straightened, every eye in the store still on us. You're right, I said evenly. And this time, I'm going to use it. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, and started scrolling. Every transfer I ever made to cover his debts, I said, loud enough for both of them to hear. Ends today. Mom blinked, speechless. My brother's smirk faded. I handed him the card. Here. You keep it. It's worthless now, just like every excuse you've ever given me. They stood there, the three of them, my family, like a tableau suddenly exposed to daylight. The cashier's eyes darted between us, awkward and uncertain. You can't do that, Rachel, my brother spat. You can't just cut us off. I already did, I said. Come. Final. I pushed my phone across the glass so Mom could see the confirmation email. Recurring transfer canceled. Effective immediately. Her breath hitched. You owe him, she started. No, I interrupted. I owe him a chance he squandered, not a life raft I keep throwing him into. When we got home, Dad hovered in the doorway like some ancient judge. You children, always dramatics, he muttered. We'll talk about this later. Later had been the problem. Later was the excuse that had kept my brother afloat on charity for a decade. Later had cost me promotions missed, nights working doubles, 1,000 small humiliations masked as family help. That night I sat at the kitchen table with a stack of bank statements and invoices. Each line was a small betrayal cataloged in dollars, late fees covered, rent paid, a private loan for a busted transmission. I'd given until I couldn't anymore. Not because I was cold, but because generosity, without accountability, becomes erased. Carter, my brother, slammed a beer on the counter and glared. You're making everyone look like monsters. What's monstrous? I asked slowly. Is acting surprised when the people you rely on finally say no. He laughed, but it lacked conviction. You'll regret this. People change when they need you. Maybe, I said. Or maybe they finally get the mirror they avoided their whole lives. I called my boss the next morning and took the leave I'd been postponing for years, the conference in Chicago that could finally put me on the map. I booked the flight with my own card. No guilt, no last-minute favors. For the first time, every decision I made was about building my life, not firefighting someone else's. That night, as I packed my suitcase, Mom knocked softly on my bedroom door. Can we talk? She asked. I closed my suitcase, breathed in, and said, not tonight. I didn't sleep that night. The bruise on my cheek pulsed like a living reminder, but what really hurt was the echo of Mom's voice defending him. Again. Always him. Morning light bled through the curtains as I packed my suitcase for Chicago. My clothes felt lighter folded into that bag, like each one carried a promise of a clean start. Downstairs, Mom was waiting, coffee mug in hand. You're really leaving? I've been leaving for years, I said quietly. This is just the first time you noticed. Your brother's upset, she sighed. He didn't mean to hit you. Of course he didn't, I said, sliding my laptop into my tote. He never means anything, does he? Her jaw tightened. You're overreacting. I almost laughed. That word, overreacting, you've been using it since I was a kid every time I asked for respect. She crossed her arms, looking smaller now. We just want the family to stay together. Then maybe you should have taught him how not to destroy it. The cab honked outside. I grabbed my keys and moved past her, pausing at the doorway. Tell him this. He'll have to find someone else's card to use next time. She flinched but said nothing. Maybe because for the first time, she couldn't twist the truth into guilt. On the plane, I stared out the window as the city shrank below me. My reflection in the glass didn't look like the apologetic daughter they were used to. It looked like someone done surviving. At 30,000 feet, I realized peace wasn't the absence of family. It was the absence of manipulation. And I'd never trade that for their version of love again. Chicago smelled like cold air and ambition. The conference center towered above the skyline, glass walls reflecting the kind of future I used to only imagine for other people. I checked into my hotel, pressed my hand against the window, and whispered, "You're here. Alone. And that's not a bad thing." Day one of the conference blurred into handshakes, presentations, and conversations with people who saw my work before they saw my gender or my family baggage. It felt strange and pure, like oxygen after years of smoke. By the second evening, I caught the attention of a senior executive from Archertech, one of our biggest clients. "Your automation model is brilliant," he said. "We'd like to discuss a permanent leadership role." I nodded, keeping my voice calm while my heart slammed against my ribs. I'd love that. That night, I ordered room service, steak, red wine, and silence. No texts asking for money. No calls about family drama. Just me and the steady hum of a new beginning. Then my phone lit up. "Mom," followed by a voice message. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "Rachel," she began, the tone weary. "Your brother's been arrested. Something about a bar fight and unpaid rent. We need help, just this once." I stared at the wall, at the reflection of myself in the TV screen, and whispered, "Of course." Not in agreement, but in recognition. The cycle had found me again. I didn't call back. Instead, I opened my laptop and drafted an email to HR, accepting the relocation offer. Subject line, "Chicago move confirmed." When I hit send, my pulse steadied. They'd made their choice years ago. Now I was finally making mine. The next morning, sunlight spilled over the hotel desk where my new contract sat waiting for my signature. My hands trembled slightly as I picked up the pen. For years, every major decision in my life had been tangled in family strings. Now there were none. When I signed my name, Rachel Pierce, Director of Systems Innovation, it felt like reclaiming my birthright. By noon, I had a dozen missed calls. Mom, Dad, even a number labeled home. I ignored them all until a text from my father appeared. "Your brother's bail is set at $7,000. We'll pay you back next month." I laughed under my breath. Next month, the same promise they'd made after every emergency that somehow lasted 10 years. Instead of replying, I sent one final message. "Stop calling me for money. Get him help instead of handouts." Then I blocked every number. That night, I celebrated quietly with colleagues. Champagne fizzed, laughter filled the rooftop bar, and for the first time, I didn't feel like the responsible one in the room. I felt free. When I got back to my hotel, there was a single voicemail waiting. "Mom again." Her voice cracked. "I don't recognize you anymore." I stared at the ceiling, smiling sadly. "Good," I whispered. "You were never supposed to." Sleep came easy that night. For once, I didn't dream of apologies that would never come or versions of family that didn't exist. Just forward motion. Tomorrow, I'd start hunting for an apartment in Chicago, a place with tall windows, no shared walls, no old ghosts. And maybe, just maybe, I'd send myself flowers on move-in day. Because being my own support system wasn't lonely anymore, it was liberation. 3 weeks later, my Chicago apartment smelled faintly of fresh paint and eucalyptus candles. Boxes lined the hallway, but I didn't rush to unpack. For the first time in years, I liked the chaos. It meant everything in this space was mine. Work was thriving. My team at Archer Tech respected me for what I brought to the table, not what I gave away to keep the peace. My boss, Elena, said during a meeting, "You've got grit, Rachel. The kind that comes from surviving things no one talks about." I smiled faintly. Maybe. But I'm done surviving. I'm building now. That night, a knock echoed at my door. When I opened it, a familiar face stood there. Ethan, a college friend I hadn't seen in years. "Found your address through LinkedIn," he said, grinning sheepishly. "Thought I'd take you out for dinner. You look good, Ratch." I laughed, tension easing. I finally feel it. Over sushi and soft music, conversation came easy. He listened without trying to fix me, asked about my work, not my family. For once, I wasn't the caretaker. I was simply seen. When I got home later, there were letters shoved under my door. 3 envelopes, all marked for my hometown. I didn't need to open them to know what they said. Mom's handwriting curved like guilt on paper. I slid them into the drawer and shut it gently. Some things didn't need closure, they just needed distance. Standing by the window, the city lights flickering below, I whispered to my reflection, "They raised a provider, not a fool." And maybe someday, when they call again, I won't answer out of anger. I just won't need to answer at all. By mid-spring, my life felt like someone else's, steady, full. My name no longer attached to someone else's chaos. I woke to morning sunlight instead of emergencies. My inbox had projects, not pleas. One Friday, as I was leaving the office, Elena stopped me. "You're speaking at the Women in Tech panel next month," she said. "Me?" She smiled. "You have a story people need to hear." That night, over takeout with Ethan, I told him about the panel. He raised his glass. "You went from paying your brother's debts to people paying to hear you talk. That's poetic justice." I laughed. "Yeah, but I don't want revenge. I just want peace to be permanent." When he left, I opened one of the envelopes I'd shoved in the drawer weeks ago. Mom's letter. The handwriting looked more fragile now. "Rachel, we're worried. Your brother's in rehab. We sold the house. Maybe you could visit when things calm down. Families should forgive." Forgive. The word didn't sting anymore. It just sounded tired. I set the letter aside and grabbed a notepad, jotting bullet points for the panel. Boundaries aren't cruelty. Guilt isn't love. Giving doesn't mean losing yourself. Before bed, I checked my email and froze. An invitation from MIT's alumni board. They wanted me to keynote a leadership conference. I smiled into the glow of the screen. My past kept circling back, not to haunt me, but to witness what I'd built without it. Outside, the city buzzed with distant sirens and laughter. I stood by the window again. The skyline reflected in the glass. Sometimes healing isn't loud or dramatic. It's just a woman choosing her own peace every single day and never apologizing for it again. The auditorium at MIT shimmered under soft white lights, the air charged with the hum of curiosity. Rows of students, professors, and entrepreneurs filled the seats. I stood backstage, fingertips brushing the edges of my note cards, though I wouldn't need them. This speech wasn't memorized, it was lived. When they called my name, applause followed me to the podium. I took a deep breath, steady but human, and began. I once believed success meant being the person everyone could depend on. But sometimes, when you spend your life holding everyone else up, you forget what standing on your own feels like. The audience leaned in. I told them about giving too much, about being told family comes first, until I realized they didn't mean mine. They meant theirs. I didn't mention my brother's name or my mother's letters. I didn't have to. Every person in that room had someone who'd taken more than they gave. I ended with, when someone tells you you've changed, take it as proof that you've stopped shrinking to fit their comfort. Don't apologize for outgrowing people who refuse to grow with you. Silence fell for half a heartbeat. Then the room erupted in applause. I smiled, not for validation, but for confirmation that I was finally living in alignment with the woman I'd become. Afterward, As the crowd dispersed, a student approached me. "My brother stole from me too," she said quietly. "I thought cutting him off made me heartless. But you made it sound brave." "It is brave," I told her, "because you can love someone and still close the door that keeps letting the pain back in." That night, I stood outside under the campus lights, wind moving through the trees. My phone buzzed again with another message from home. I turned it off without reading. I didn't need their applause anymore.